long ago. It's inevitable that these children will pick up this kind of sentiments even from their parents.
Yes.
So you need a process in the school system so that you bring up these children in a manner that is, as the Constitution says, a non-racial South Africa and non-sexist South Africa. I don't know whether that is there in the syllabus, but it ought to be there.
The Thabo Mbeki Foundation calling on the Pretoria High School for Girls principal and deputy principal to be reinstated. The foundation also proposing that the investigation into racism initiated by the department be reconsidered or halted. Let's get some reaction to this now. I'm joined by Savanthika Pillay, a trauma-informed facilitator with expertise in educating children on racism. A very good afternoon to you, Savanthika. Thanks very much for your time. I hope my reading is correct, that essentially what the Thabo Mbeki Foundation is saying to all and sundry, but in particular the Department of Education, is that the matter of racism, given where we're coming from as a country, should be handled very responsibly and sensitively, and we shouldn't be blasé about it.
Yes, thank you, Vuyo. And I agree 100%. You know, I think I am of a generation where we spoke about the 3 R's, which was reading, writing, arithmetic. And I think the 3 R's should be and should have always been regulating, reflection, relationship. What we are seeing patterns on repeat all over the world. Specifically in our country, to bring it closer to home, we have a history of trauma. We have all been born into trauma fields, and that hasn't been addressed at all in a way that is helpful or sustainable. And what we are seeing, I'm a trauma-informed facilitator and coach. What that means is, when I look at a situation, I am saying that to understand that behavior, I want to understand what is the autonomic state of that person. And what do I mean by the autonomic state is what is the state of the nervous system of that person, of that child, of that adult. Are they in a survival state of fight or flight? Are they using all their energy to keep themselves safe? Are they frozen? Are they shut down? Or are they safe to be around? And that we cannot bypass the nervous system. And a lot of the processes and intervention and talk and lesson that we have tried to deliver over decades continue to miss helping people to regulate the nervous system, to reset the nervous system. That is the missing link. And through that, we start healing the trauma that is stored in our bodies. We can start to shift our relationships in a very authentic and true way. And we start to break intergenerational patterns of trauma.
Now, one of the things the Thabo Mbeki Foundation is pointing out is that the decisions to suspend and charge the 12 white pupils and the principal were made before any investigation was conducted to determine whether there was at least a prima facie case or evidence supporting the allegation, which to me suggests that, the importance of process, where you start, where you go, and how you reach your end.
Absolutely. I think process is incredibly important. And often when we also have a disruption or we have a conflict, I'm going to return to the point that I've been making. We return to process, or we throw the rule book at you, which isn't restorative. So I think I would like to go to a point of saying, what if the investigation had been done and racism was proven, for example? I know that racism wasn't proven, but what if it were? What would we have done then? Then thrown the rule book? Or would we have said, what is the possibility here? And who else cares about it? Because this again becomes the pattern on repeat. So it's one thing to say process wasn't followed. I'm saying, what if it were true? As we know, occurs in our social situations all the time. What if it were true? What do we do then? And I'm saying, can we do something that is restorative? Can we do something that is relational? Can we do something where all of us are right, held accountable, but we work with regulating and building relationship?
Does that not also speak, what you just said, speak also to then the expertise of the people who were involved in this process? Does it not also bring into question their expertise, or whether they were in fact the most competent people, to tackle this issue? Could it be that in its attempt to deal quickly with all the allegations that were popping up, that perhaps the department may have gone for the wrong set of people to deal with the particular issue or issues that had arisen, from this episode?
Look, I don't want to comment on the competence or, whether they were the right or the wrong people. A trauma-informed approach will say to me, or will ask me to think about, what was the autonomic state of the people who were asked to do this work? What was at stake for them? Were they feeling safe in even doing this job? Were they in a fight or flight state? Were they offending from the position of a victim, given our own trauma history? What were they trying to do? And that would be informed by what was their autonomic state. How regulated were they when they were doing this work? And I can imagine having the whole country look at you perform, and 50 different people having 50 different expectations of you, that would put you in a very particular kind of survival state. So everything for me, and I don't mind being repetitive about it, everything for me points to, are we safe enough to do this work? Have we attended to our own stuff? Have we attended to our own trauma? Are we doing the work of regulation?
Do you mind? Can I ask you to? Can I ask you to answer those very questions you're posing? Are we?
So, yeah, okay, sure. My feeling, Vuyo, is that, and I include myself in that I've been doing the narrative work, the coaching, the facilitation for many, many years. And it was only when I started doing the somatic piece that I really attended to my trauma history. I attended to my own reactivity. Prior to that, I was using all my energy to keep myself safe, to try to be very smart. But inside me, that internal voice, there was the voice of judgment, the voice of cynicism, the voice of fear. And that is because on the level of my nervous system, I was not regulated. So I believe that until we do this work intentionally, purposefully, effectively, continuously, because it's ongoing work, we are often all in survival states. And I work in the corporate sector, I've worked in the public sector and private sector in schools. And when people come together, we are using all our energy to keep ourselves safe. We are coding for protection and not for connection, because we don't know another way.
Savanthika Pillay, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
To this now, the World Food Programme says millions of people across Southern Africa are facing the worst food crisis in decades. Amid historic drought conditions, a record 5 countries, Lesotho, Malawi, Namibia, Zambia and Zimbabwe, have declared a state of disaster and are calling for international humanitarian support. The agency is planning to bring food distributions and, in some cases, cash assistance to more than 6.5 million people. However, it fears the number of people in need will increase.
October in Southern Africa marks the start of the lean season, and each month is expected to be worse than the previous one until harvest next year in March and April. Crops have failed, livestock has perished, and children are lucky to receive 1 meal per day. The situation is dire, and the need for action has never been clearer. Our plans now hang in the balance due to massive funding shortfalls. Unless we receive additional resources, millions of people risk going through the worst lean season in decades without assistance.
Severe flooding in Nigeria's Kogi state has displaced over 2 million people and submerged more than 200 communities. The floods were triggered last month by the overflowing Niger and Benue rivers. The damage to farmland is extensive, and as the rainy season gets underway, there are fears that this year's disaster may surpass the devastation of 2022, in which more than 500